out right now because I have Bianca Farella here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to try to name all of your stats, your most impressive ones, and if I forget any, you tell me, okay? Let's start from university. RSEQ Rookie of the Year, RSEQ All-Star, CIS All-Star, CIS Rookie of the Year, 2013 Rugby World Cup silver medalist. The Brazil one, FISU? FISU, gold medalist, captain of that team, 2016 Olympic bronze medalist. Any other big ones I'm missing?
I don't think so.
No?
You named them all.
Okay, good. Amazing. So, yeah, thank you so much for sitting down with me. We're in Victoria. Do you like living in Victoria? You've been out here for how many years now?
I've been here for 10 years now. I think this is my 10th. Yeah, I moved here January 2013. And, my first year living here, I was kind of in denial that I lived here because it was too much of a small town. Coming from Montreal, I loved that big city feel. But after a year, I started to feel like, kind of more laid back and like so much closer to nature. And I really liked that aspect of Victoria, being able to see the mountains and the ocean, being so at my disposal. I really do like living here.
Are you from Montreal, born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised in Montreal.
And then rugby is what brought you out here?
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't have moved out of my parents' house at 19 that early, no. Just culturally, it wouldn't have been the right step. But yeah, the rugby is what brought me here to Victoria.
Got you. When did rugby come into your life? Like, when did you first start playing?
I first started playing when I was 13, so my first year of high school in grade 7. A good friend of mine, her family is from New Zealand, so she knew what rugby was, and I sure did not. But the only other sport that was offered at that time at my high school was tennis, and I was still craving that team sport feel. I had just come from a soccer season, a basketball season, and team sports was more so what I wanted to do. And she easily convinced me that we should go try out and play rugby. So we were 13.
So actually, I feel like that is relatively young for rugby to get into it.
It is. For my generation, it was young. Now 10 years into the game, now young people are playing at 7, 8, 5, U3. It's so impressive. It's so cool to ask young people when they started playing rugby, and I hear 7. It's really cool how it's growing in North America.
Well, and it's so true. I feel like it's very rare for someone of our age group to say that they started with rugby and that was their first youth sport. Usually it's like, oh, I played basketball, I played hockey, I played soccer, I was in track or whatever, and then they found their way into rugby later. We'll touch on this later, but I actually totally attribute part of that to 2016 and you guys winning a medal. I think that I saw, even in the Edmonton community, such a growth in the game between 2016 and now when you guys did that. So we'll get to that later though, because I won't jump ahead. Okay, so it comes into your life, grade 7. Did you immediately like it? Did you immediately think this is going to be my game?
I quickly found myself on the wing. I quickly found a position that worked well for me and my strengths. And I really liked that aspect of rugby. And just to be clear, I started playing 15. Sevens wasn't really on the radar. Sevens was a once a year 2-day tournament, part of the high school league.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what drew me to rugby. I found my place based on my strengths on the field. You have 15 people who have different strengths, and that was so beautiful that to have it all come together with so many people on the field, and that family feel and camaraderie was really, really special that I didn't feel in other sports. Right. And you were touching on how people quote unquote specialize in rugby so early, and I really didn't. I was 9, I think I was 18 when I was persuaded to, maybe you should stick to rugby because this is what you're meant to do.
So what were your other kind of big sports at that time?
So I only played rugby once I started CEGEP, so I was 17. But I wanted to run track in the off season to stay fit because the rugby season I think was maybe 3 months in the fall. Yeah. So I was like, oh, it's an easy way to stay accountable and run and be fit, and I like to move. But then I was convinced to start to join the rugby clubs that have training all year round in town, and that was a big this could be something that I go far in. But even then, I didn't really know. I just know that I wanted to be the best and one of the best, and go as far as I could.
What is rugby culture like in Quebec? Is it popular? Is it more popular than other provinces? Less? What do you think?
The first word that comes to mind is passion. were when I started playing, it was very uplifting and very empowering, and we were always the underdogs. So it was it was a very fun position to be in.
Yeah.
And there wasn't that much pressure. So that brought a certain level of admiration and fun to the game as well, which I'm really grateful for. It wasn't always like, we're from Ontario, we're the top dogs, like we have to win. It was like, let's go out there and show them what we have, because we have something special. And actually, one of my proudest moments was being a U19 national champion in 2010.
Oh, get out!
Playing for Quebec. Yeah, it was a very special. Like, no one really knew what we had, but we had each other, and we had a phenomenal team, and that further fueled my love for the game.
Do you have siblings?
I do have a younger sister.
Okay, so just the two of you? It's
just the two of us.
Is she an athlete too?
Yeah, she is an athlete. I would say her biggest quality is that she's very competitive. Oh, yeah. So she did play rugby. She played a lot of sports growing up. But I think what sets her apart is her level of competitiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you competitive against each other as sisters growing up?
I think I helped pave a path for us growing up. Like she really did look up to me, and I only realized that later on in my 20s. But you know, I think as we grow up and and especially as women, like try to find our own path in this world, I felt like I made my own choices, and then she followed suit, you know, trying to figure herself out as well. So yeah, so we kind of did similar things, and then as we grew older and realized, our own unique paths and where we want to go with our lives, we kind of are both great people, and I look up to her in so many different ways. But we're very close. We only realized how close we were and how similar we were in our mid to late 20s. Yeah, it's really special.
What about mom and dad? Were they athletes?
Yeah, they sure were. And they still are, actually. My dad played hockey and baseball growing up, and
typical Canadian boy, hey?
Absolutely. And my mom's a natural athlete. Like, she could do anything, and she could pick it up and be good at it. She was a runner. I don't actually know exactly which sports she played, but I think she kind of would pick any sport in high school and go ahead and go with it. Yeah. But yeah.
It's funny, like, people that are naturally gifted, whether it's in your speed, whether it's in like how strong you are, how high you can jump, they kind of can do anything. You know what I mean? Yep. I feel like my strengths as an athlete that got me as far as they did were in my like decision-making ability, and were like a result of just a lot of practice. I was never someone that I could just like jump into a sport and pick it up. I could never. So I'm kind of jealous of like the natural athletes of the world. So that's good. She passed that on to you, hey?
True. But at the same time, like, a lot of the people that are in my circle are the people that work the hardest.
Yes.
So that is
1000%.
An incredible trait that not many people have, I'm learning.
That's true. Very true. So how did you end up going to Dawson College?
Thank you for reaching so far back in my memory.
No problem. I researched.
I think Dawson was just the natural choice for me. I don't remember how many English CEGEPs there are in Quebec, but Dawson is the biggest one. And I went to an all-girls private independent school, and I think I wanted a bit more independence, a bit more I guess the co-ed learning atmosphere. I think I was craving something different. I did have a great experience in high school. But actually, now that I really think about it, I think Dawson was the rugby program. Yeah. The coaches that were there that really drew me to go there.
Amazing.
And really throughout my 2 years at Dawson was like, I experienced such incredible growth and incredible, I guess, life skills on how to succeed during my time with the national program.
And what did you take when you were at Dawson?
I took pure and applied sciences.
Okay.
So like physics, engineering, like that went down that path. Yeah.
I love a STEM girly. Okay. So then Concordia comes in and scoops you up. So so how far into your program at Dawson College were you when you made the switch to Concordia?
Probably at the end. To decide that I wanted to go to Concordia. Again, I think it was driven by they had a great rugby program. Yeah. I really think like all I really thought about then was how do I get better at rugby and how do I I felt like a jock, like where can I go, how can I find the best coaches, and and learn. And Dawson and Concordia were at the time the strongest programs. So I think that was the easy choice. So I didn't have to make a choice almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably at the end of my 2 years was I like, okay, I'm going to Concordia.
Comparing, because Dawson, if I'm correct, is part of like the college league, correct?
Correct.
How did you enjoy, because some people argue for either side. Some people are like, I liked the college league a lot better. I have a lot of friends that played in like the Alberta college, the ACAC, and they're like, I liked it way better. It was like a little bit more laid back. I feel like I got more attention from like my coaches and blah, blah, blah. And then some people are like, I liked kind of the like flashiness and the bigger stage of being in U Sport, what was then CIS. Which did you prefer looking back?
So I only did 1 year of CIS/eSport. And I think they were quite comparable.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good.
Like in CEGEP, we didn't have that many people coming to our games. We did have a lot of support. Like Dawson was a sports school. But Concordia as well, they had a good sports program and you know, the school would come out and watch us. But I never really thought, oh, I like one better than the other, especially since I didn't fulfill my 5 years of eligibility at CIS. But now like training with people who have gone through the youth sport path, I think they do find a lot of value in that.
I think so too.
I think so, yeah. I think it's grown a lot and they have a different model and funding and all that. Hopefully one day it's comparable to the NCAA.
I hope so. Let's hope. Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at your stats from your year at Concordia. So for those that don't know, like the U Sport rugby season is pretty short. You're looking like 3 or 4 league games maybe, and then you're into playoffs, and then like you're done. It's not a long season. Like you're done by like mid-November.
Yes.
You had 60 points. I don't know if you even know that. Do you know that?
I don't know.
60 points. I was like, my God. So 1 year in, 60 points. You're the RSEQ Rookie of the Year, the CIS Rookie of the Year, which that is so cool.
Thanks.
I never went. Well, I gotta ask you this. I never went to like a CIS awards. Do they have their own like banquet?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they had it at nationals.
Cool.
Because Concordia, we qualified for nationals. We played against University of Laval for that title, and then I think it was at St. FX that year.
That is so neat.
Yeah, it was really special, and I didn't really know how special it was at the time.
Well, I mean, I imagine it was like it was a lot fast. Like it's 1 year, and then yeah, it was probably kind of hard to take it in. Hey. Yeah,
it was fast, and you know, going into my year at Concordia, I had been asked to move to Victoria to train with the national team.
Really?
I did, yeah. Because I played really well in under-20 Canada the year before, or maybe it was under-18. Either way, that summer I did really well, and I got asked to come out, and I didn't know. I think it was the first year of the centralized program out here in Victoria.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I think I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and so much so that I didn't even answer the email.
Really?
3 weeks after the deadline, because I was like, I don't know what's really going on here. I know that I value education, so I really wanted to go to school.
Yeah.
So then I did my year at Concordia, and then so I think I always kind of hoped that I would get another offer. Yeah. So maybe deep down I thought, you know, I will only be here for a year or not or whatever. I hope I get another opportunity, but yeah, it was never for anything other than I want to play rugby and I want to be great at what I do. So then with that mentality, you were okay with being like, yep, I've done my year, I'm ready to go out and train with the national program, or did you have a hard time leaving the university setting? Actually, it was very easy for me to leave. Really? It was so easy in that I don't remember packing, I don't remember booking anything. I don't even remember having a conversation with my family. I was like, see you later, I'm out of here, I'm going to do this thing. I don't know what it means, I don't know what it looks like, but yeah, I don't even remember that time or that phase. But it was easy to leave. Yeah, it was easy to go. I have never been carded for the national program, so I wouldn't know. So if they reach out to you and they want you to come out to the training program and be out here year round, like, what does that mean for university players? Does that mean that you're done? Like, you can't play anymore? You have to pause your program? Can people continue on in school? Like, does joining that program mean that you're done school for the moment, essentially? In my era, yes, that's kind of what it meant. But it certainly doesn't have to mean that. Okay. Yes, it's a full-time program, and I think we started at like 8 and ended at 3 or 4 sometimes. So I think if athletes can fit their work or their school around that, I don't think it's a problem. But at the time, yes, it was kind of put things on hold because like focus on going to the Olympics in a few years. However, I did take a part-time course because I did want to keep some continuity in that.
Yeah.
But I think like you can do anything in your time off.
Right.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned like the long days. So how many months out of the year is that your schedule?
I think my first 6 months was not part of the official quadrennial, but the second it hit 2013, like when I moved there, it was a full-time program, something like that. I think it was because I joined in the second year of the program entirely. I think they were still working out the kinks and finalizing funding and what things look like for like really own the podium, like that to prove to own the podium, a huge sponsor for Canadian sports. That this is a program that will do well. So when I started, I was still within like that, like working out the kinks type of phase. But yeah, I think like we knew kind of sort of well in advance that this was going to start to be year round. Like I knew early on that I wasn't going to do half in Victoria, half in Montreal. Right. Yeah. You
were out here for the long haul.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now it's been, how long did you say? How many years have you been out here?
I've been out here for 10 years.
Do you like the vibe of Victoria as a city?
Yes, I've learned to love it. Yeah. I really thought I was a city gal. And I guess at heart I am, but I like how small it is here, and it wants to be a big city. It's trying. Does, yeah. Like only a few months ago did we get approved for Uber.
What do you miss most about Montreal?
The food.
Oh, yeah.
The different types of food and the restaurants that you can get. Restaurants you can go to.
Are there a lot of chains out here, or is it a lot of local places?
I would say it's more so boutique and local.
Okay.
I think that's what Victoria prides itself on.
Yeah, but not the same variety as Montreal.
Agreed.
Oh, no.
Agreed.
Okay, so 10 years out here, we like it. Had you not have paused university, what were you kind of wanting to do? If rugby was not this chapter, what do you think you would have done instead?
I would have played basketball.
Yeah? Yeah? Love it. I'm a multi-sport girl.
I thought that would have been my track. I had this dream of playing basketball at Duke University and playing in the WNBA. So yeah, I guess that doesn't really answer like the education and career point of your question, but I was so sports driven at that age.
Yep.
And I loved it, and I didn't really realize how much it had given me and developed me as a person. I mean, I would have found my way eventually in terms of careers, but I was driven by sport and excelling, and that was a strength of mine, so I was not going to ignore it.
Yeah.
I knew how to work hard, and I was naturally gifted. So I would have done that. You know why I love that, though, is because that mentality for boys growing up is totally normal. Totally normal, where they're like, they keep their delusion till like the bitter end. They're like, I'm going to the NHL or whatever it is. Yeah. Versus like, you know, in our generation, obviously it's changed a lot since we were kids, but there was like really relatively no such thing as, you know, growing up to playing in like a pro league in North America. So I love that even as a young person, you were like, no, I will be playing sport in some capacity. I will be an athlete. This will be my job. I think that's actually very refreshing. Yeah. Yeah, it is. And my family spent some time in the States. So like, I think when I was until I was about 9, I grew up in the States. But my inspiration growing up was the U.S. national women's soccer team. Yeah. Because that's what I saw. And, you know, them, like the whole 99ers team, like that, that is what fueled my love for, like, I just could see that feeling in them, and I see the emotion and the passion, and that's what I wanted. Okay, so I have to talk for my own fan purposes about 2016. Yeah, what was your mindset? Like, what was your expectation going into it? Did you know what to expect, or like, walk me through it? What were you feeling? Well, I'll start that off by saying I expected gold. Yeah. And all we dreamt about was gold. Our team was consistently third place for the years leading up to that. So that was my mindset going into it. But we were all in a, you know, despite the experience, the differing levels of experience on our team, like from our captains to our highest scoring athlete, etc. We were all kind of in the same boat, in that none of us had been to the Olympics before. Right. So it was really nice going into that new space together, and like still having that level of like, that person's my captain, this person I'm playing beside with, like there was that natural like like we had our starters and our finishers. That was very fair, but it was nice to experience that first time Olympic feeling together. Yeah. And overall, that experience, like leading into it, that's all we dreamt of.
Yeah.
Like I remember having the blinders on for months leading into it. Like the second it turned January 1st, 2016, you could feel the shift in the environment.
Really?
Yeah, that now it was Olympic year, now it was Olympic time. We knew that things were going to change in a way that I don't know if many of us expected. But it was a lot of good prep in, like we would bring in Olympians to tell us about their experiences, because we didn't have rugby role models to model that off of. So it was like, I think we had a hockey athlete come and a rower, and it was very valuable. Yeah. But it was, we didn't know what we were coming for. And I think the only other major games that group of people had prior to the Olympics was the 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto. Which I had missed because I had my first shoulder surgery. So that was my first multi-sport games experience. And it was, I like to describe it as overwhelming in the best sense and the worst sense. Yeah. Because everything is so big. You have so many, you're meeting Canadian athletes for the first time in the Olympic Village, and of different sports, obviously. And, you know, you don't know if that person's a physio or a staff or a Team Canada athlete. So, you know, everyone's just like, go Canada, go. In the same condo building. And everyone's trading pins, and the dining area is like this huge city of itself, and it was so overwhelming.
Was there anyone you saw in the Olympic Village that you were freaking out a little bit as like a fan?
Absolutely, yeah. We were in the dining hall with Usain Bolt, so that was really cool, and I was way too shy to bother him while he was eating.
Do people bother him though?
Yeah.
Is that normal in the Olympic Village? Like, do other Olympians ask for like autographs and stuff from other Olympians?
They would. Yeah, they would. They do. It's cool. It's a cool environment that way.
Wow. Yeah. What was the thing about the whole experience that made you like, that you were most kind of not shocked by, but that made you feel like, wow, I'm pretty cool? Like, was there anything that was like, yeah, this is amazing?
I felt so good in our bronze medal game. Yeah, it was really cool. You know, we play sevens, like I think like 7 tournaments a year, and you hope that our training tracks well so that our tapers are all aligned and we all peak on the same day, on the same weekend at the same time, all 12, 14 of us. And I think, and the Olympics were such a shock to us, like all that first time pressure, and we had the pressure going in that, you know, we should have been top 3, and we were. Like we did fulfill that. But it was such a great feeling to know that, like, we were so fit going into that, and our training changed to adjust for that going into 2016, and it was so fulfilling to see it pay off.
And you also all seemed like a very tight group as a team. Your chemistry seemed really strong.
Agreed. Yeah, I would say our chemistry was perfect.
How long had that group been? Because obviously, like, you've like changes, like people come and they go, but by and large, how long had you guys been training together as a group?
I would say the core of that group had been together for 2 to 4 years prior to that, the core. Yeah, and you're right, like there's selections that go your way and some that don't, so there were people in and out. But that Olympic roster was a surprise, because, you know, we had depth and it could have gone any other way.
So, Raffles whistle, you've won bronze. Like, tell me what that moment feels like.
We actually knew we won minutes before the game ended. So that was an incredible feeling. And it was just a matter of, you know, keep doing what we're doing to stave them off. And we had played Great Britain the day before, I believe, and lost by the same score, but the other way. And really, that really was chalked up to the overwhelming pressure that the Olympic Games brings. And they showed up that day, and we didn't. And it was a pretty bad game, honestly, on Canada's side. So many unforced errors, and I think I had a few as well. And Jen Kish held my face at one point and was like, "Brush that off. We need to get back into the game here." And, you know, that's like, oh my gosh, like that. Why does that have to happen at the games?
Yeah, totally.
So that feeling that we had won the game happened minutes before. And fun fact, we were told before that game that bronze medal final would be 10-minute halves and not 7-minute halves.
Really?
Yeah, and that only usually applies to the final.
Okay.
Right. So not the bronze medal final, but the final. So they were like, surprise, this bronze medal game is going to be 10 minutes, which was no problem for us because we knew all the training that we had done would have prepared us for a 50-minute half game.
Right. Which, dear God, but yes, anyway.
So that's why we knew so quickly on that we had a good enough lead. But I looked up and saw that there was like 4 minutes left. And I was like, we're so far ahead that we have this.
Mm-hmm.
So that moment for me happened like you could see me in the game footage and I'm smiling already before. Yeah. And I had a stormer of a game, so
you did. Great.
But I don't remember the whistle, that the end of game whistle, but I remember the faces and the jumping and the photos. Like, I'm so grateful for those photos that summer framed in my home that, you know, not many people get to experience.
And young too. How old were you? 25?
I was 24.
24. Yeah, right. And in that moment, frankly, I'd be thinking, well, now what? I'm 24. I won an Olympic medal. It's like nothing's ever going to top that.
Yeah, I did kind of feel that. I definitely thought like, well, like I have a bronze medal. Like how much more can I climb from here? I did carry that for a few months. But boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong. Like my level of play grew exponentially leading towards like 2017, 2018, 2019. Like I couldn't believe how much better rugby was. Mm-hmm. Than what it was at the games.
Yeah, it's crazy the way like, it's grown.
The rules are changing to accommodate a faster game, and like there are tangible changes, but the level of play and now the rugby nations are all pretty much on par with each other. And I know that's a big statement, but I mean it's so different than what it was in 2016.
Yeah, no, it's very true. When you have, you know, growing up, it's like you get your medals, whatever. When you're like, oh, we won the Timbits soccer tournament, you get your little medal and you keep it. And then you put it in a box and then, like, you know, you pull it out every now and again when you're, like, moving or whatever. And you're like, oh, I forgot I even had this. Where do you keep your medal?
Yeah, my Olympic medal is in my living room.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
good.
It's out in the open.
Good. It should be. That's good.
Thank you.
You should, whenever someone comes into your home, you should be like, super quick, I'd like you to take a look at that.
Fun fact about those medals, the medals of the bronze, the medals that were used for the bronze medal, physical medals, oxidized. So there's all these little tarnishes on the medal.
Those cheap buggers. Unbelievable.
I don't know what happened or what, but so that's also kind of part of the story too. Like it's not it's not a shiny medal anymore. It's like a little bit tarnished, but I've grown to realize that that's part of the story.
I wonder what the Olympics return policy is on medals.
I've asked.
Oxidized. Have you actually asked?
Yeah, I think it's kind of too far gone down the road to like, could I just exchange?
Oh my God. Yeah, you're like, hello.
There actually was a process like right after the games where they realized that the bronze medals were tarnishing, and I couldn't be without the medal for.
Yeah.
I couldn't let it go.
No.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how I didn't want to be without medal at
yeah,
it was too soon.
And I'd be thinking like, what if something happens to it while it's out of my sight? Like, what if I don't blame you, I would have been like, I'll take the oxidized medal, thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah. So favorite memory from the whole Olympic experience, what would it be?
It's not really a memory but more so a feeling, like our ability to bounce back in sevens, like that team's ability to bounce back in sevens is something that I'm so glad I have in me. But the ability to turn around, losing against Great Britain in pool play, and that night having to play in a quarterfinal is such a valuable trait that I learned. And I'm so glad that I learned from those athletes like Giz Landry, Jen Kish, Kelly Russell, that like skill to wipe things off and start anew, just knowing what our strengths were and are, is so cool in sevens. And you need that in sevens.
Yeah.
Like the games are so... You know, the format is changing now, more closer to 3 days instead of 2 days, but you have to be able to take your 10 minutes to be upset and then be on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily like a favorite memory, but it's such a cool feeling to show up and compete despite the past, despite hours before that we had just had an awful game. So I'd say it's that.
Do you prefer 7s to 15s?
I mean, at this time I do. I'm just so specialized in sevens now, and I'd always been drawn to sevens.
And you're really good at it too.
Thank
also.
you. Thanks. Yeah, it's just like, it was always the easy choice. Like sevens was, during my time, sevens was always funded and supported, and the women's 15s program was not, which is an absolute shame because they're fourth in the world.
Yeah.
Without much support. So I do appreciate sevens a bit more. But that being said, like, I love space. I love speed. I love being on attack. So sevens is the easy answer. I do prefer it. But
the only thing that stresses me out, like, I remember watching that game, and I watch all your games in the Olympics, but I remember watching that game in particular, the bronze medal game, and like, it's sometimes the shortness of sevens works in your favor, like you mentioned, because minutes before the game was over, I was like, there's no way they're going to come back. Sometimes it's the opposite, where you're like, we made one mistake and we don't have time.
Right.
Like, that's the part. Does that bother you about sevens?
Yeah, I think I felt that feeling more so in this last year that I came back to play too. Like, the games had been a lot closer at times, that it's like, oh, I wish we had one more minute. But I think that just goes to show how much precision of skill you need in sevens.
Totally, yeah.
That you have to win your kickoff, or else you don't have possession for the next minute and a half.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I like that aspect of sevens, that you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And you have to execute, or else it's 7 points the other way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be incredibly mentally tough, I think, to do that. Like, I even just, like, talking about this, I'm, like, getting anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Especially on that stage, like, just so much pressure. But it made for such excitement. Like, I will never forget standing in my living room, like, this far from the TV, watching that game, like, jumping up and down, screaming. And I have to imagine every female rugby player in Canada was watching that game. Like, our club group chat, all of us were, like, chiming in on every little thing. It was such an exciting moment in history. And I'm wondering, like, did you feel that from people? Did you feel that love and the support from the rugby community?
Yeah, we definitely did. And I think the fact that all came together at an Olympic Games is really what propels women's rugby, rugby in Canada in general. And I would say this even started at the 2013 World Cup, where we were silver medalists. Yeah. I think that's really what promote, like, unfortunately, our Canadian system, you have to win to get funding.
Yeah.
So to have started in 2013 with a silver medal, boosted funding to boost our performance in Rio. But absolutely, like, I think the timing has worked out so well. Like, rugby was the hot new sport, and what is this sport? It's so exciting, and like, oh my God, what? Like, and now they're down 7 because someone dropped the ball. Like, it's such a unique sport that way. Yeah. And it's such a spectator sport. Like, it's so exciting to play, but it's such a spectator sport. But absolutely, it was incredible to come home and feel so much support that, like, on that scale. Like, we had supporters, and our club team supported us, and I randomly had, like, a Brazilian contingency of fans for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, so great. Like, any way to, to connect and build, and to connect and build the sport, I guess, and connect people all over the world. It's so cool. But absolutely, coming back from the games was a huge boost. Like, I think I had gone home right away, and it was with family, and like, I traveled home with my medal, and people were like, what? And like, you go through security, and you'd be like, what's that? Like, we know what that is. And like, just everyone was so on board, and everyone was in such a good mood around the games and big sporting events. Like, it's the biggest thing in sport, and people know what the Olympics are. So I refer back to the timing, like the timing of our training and our preparation, and everyone peaking at that time to pull off that bronze medal, which we were expected to get. Like, I'll be honest, like, that's how we had been tracking.
Totally.
But to pull it off it was incredible to feel that support.
That was so cool. And I think, and I have no data to back this up, however, I do genuinely believe with my whole heart that win popularized rugby.
Yes.
Where, like, it went from being like you would encounter some people that like didn't know the game, didn't know the rules, like still decently regularly. After that, people knew.
Right.
I think in
Absolutely.
Canada specifically. Like it became more of a, in Canadian culture, I think it became much more widely known, which was amazing. Yeah. And you know what I also think is so crazy is only rugby would you have like an Olympian that plays for like your club team. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like my one friend played club with Biancas.
Right.
And what other sport can you play club where somebody can come in who's never played and just be like tossing the ball around and you're on the pitch with an Olympian.
Right.
Where else do you get that? Never.
I agree.
So crazy.
I think the rugby community is very, very special.
You want a shot at meeting an Olympian? Go find the local rugby club where they play.
Right.
They'll be playing there.
Yeah, because that's often where people have their start and people remember where they first started out.
Yeah.
Because it's that community support that really pushes you and empowers you to go for things.
Mm-hmm. Who was your club?
I played for the town of Mount Royal Rugby Football Club.
Okay, shout out to them.
That's absolutely. And my mentors were people that had played for Canada who were on the field with me at the same time. So I had good role models, even like you said, they played for Canada and we're still playing club. Yeah. Because that community is still there, continuous and, breeding the next gen.
Do you get to go back and see your club every now and again when you're in town?
I need to more because every time I go home it's for such quick visits lately. But I know the support's always there.
Totally. And they're probably your biggest fans and I'm sure that'll never change.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's you remember where you came from. Yeah. And like I think I had my shot playing for the senior team like quite early on. And I it was a total mess, honestly. Like really? I don't remember being a great game, but like they did that for me. Yeah. And that's what I needed. I needed to play against people that were better than me. In
your time in Victoria, even in like the early years, did you ever play for a club out here?
No. I'm gonna say we didn't have the time.
Yeah.
Like it was very much like it was very insular and like we were very watched. Like like even if we would go on a hike, they'd be like, "Oh, why did you go on a hike?" Like it was very protected and very like our loads were managed I think we had GPSs on all the time, which is very standard while we are on the field. Oh, GPS on while we're on the field.
Sorry. I was like, hold on. They put GPS. Okay, GPS on the field. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like just everything was so managed, and like down to like I appreciate the sports science. Honestly, like no, you can't run an extra 100 meters because that wouldn't bode well for tomorrow. Like I really enjoyed that sports science aspect of it. Yeah. But like our seasons were never busy, but our training schedule was very busy. So we didn't, and I don't think there were sevens programs at the time to play.
Oh, true. What am I talking about? Of course not.
No, but now like some people do have the ability to go play 15s for their club because the skills do transfer.
I wanted to ask you a little bit, just like some overarching stuff about 2020 and like the things that have gone on since then. What year did you first join the national program? What was like your very first year?
My first tour was in 2012, but officially like moved out here in January 2013.
So the like 7-8 years leading up to when you guys came out and said like, hey, we're experiencing some bullying and harassment from Rugby Canada as an organization. Was it a slow burn? Like, did you notice things kind of very early on that you were like, okay, this is problematic? Or was it something that happened like closer to 2020 when you actually spoke about it?
I would say as a group, it came up pretty quickly. But the thing is that people have so many different experiences throughout that time and under that leadership that I think there was a lot of fear of, oh no, will I be next?
Right.
So it almost wasn't safe to speak out because the people who were given the privilege to feel safe didn't always know what was happening behind the scenes. Or they did, and again there was fear to speak up. Yeah. And again, there's probably like 60 plus people that have gone through the program since it began. But during that time when as a group we started to realize and learn that there was a problem, I think that was fairly quick. I
mean, because like what I feel like, if you're listening to this and you're, you know, a non-athlete or you're not super like familiar with that world, and not that I am, but I'm gonna imagine that I was. Like, you just have to imagine if you've made it to the point of playing for a national program, you have a lot to lose. And in sport, like, people are disposable. People at all levels, whether it's your coaches, your managers, your trainers, people can be vindictive. So if you were to come forward and somebody was not pleased that you did, they could cut you, they could bench you, they could, you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? No shit, you know what I mean? I meant to people listening. You know what I'm saying? You're like, no, I've never had that experience. So I'm curious then, what was your reason where you were like, okay, while this is risky, we need to come forward anyway because XYZ?
And I think you put it very, very realistically. Like, there is a lot to lose, and there's one person who's in charge who is not really being supervised.
Yeah.
Just because of the inadequate sporting structure that existed. So I think that's a good way of putting it. There is a lot to lose, and you kind of want to be on everybody's good side so that you are being looked at and you get selected. That's really, unfortunately, what it comes down to, and the sporting world can be quite unforgiving. Honestly, once it was spoken into existence, there was no turning away from it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. There were a few team meetings that, you know, it kind of got brought up, and, you know, people were like, what? It was like quite a shock to a lot of people.
Really?
But also not a shock to a lot of people, because they had been in those unfortunate positions for years, and they've had to learn how to cope to be in that environment.
Yeah.
So honestly, once it was spoken into existence, I didn't see a way where we couldn't do something right away. There were too many day-to-day struggles and people struggling to say we can't not support people right now by speaking up.
Do you feel like that is a struggle? I mean, we saw it over the past 6 months with the women's soccer team. Do you feel like this is a struggle that disproportionately affects women's programs? Of the, like, mismanagement, people being afraid to come forward?
I don't think it's disproportionate, because I also see a lot of toxicity in men's programs. So if we're talking about toxic environments, no, I don't think that's a disproportionate effect that just women's teams have. But where I see failures and setbacks are in the system that didn't support us when we came forward.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest setback that I've experienced. You know, myself and our team was tracking. We were, you know, in 2019, we were top 2. We were making finals and putting up big shows leading into the pandemic. And that was our track, and that's where we should have been. Like, I should, you know, it's a bold statement, but if everything worked out well and there was no pandemic, which is not a world we live in, you know, Canada could be 2-time medalists in the first 2 Olympics that ever existed for rugby sevens. Yeah. And that, again, that's a bold statement, but that's how I pictured my track in the sport.
Yeah.
But, you know, when we came forward, we were encouraged to be quiet because we had a lot to lose. And that's an unfortunate thing that you know, when you speak out, you kind of have to back it up. And it was, and we obviously had evidence from our experiences from so many years, and, you know, it was a big group of people that had their own separate experiences. But I think our biggest strength was to support ourselves, but we wish that we could just focus on the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back now, do you feel like you're happy with the changes that have since been made?
You know, I took a break after the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, because I thought I was done playing rugby. And then the Olympics went down the way they did. You know, we ended up 9th place, which was a true showing of how much we were struggling.
Totally.
I don't think we knew, like, we're all such strong characters. So I don't think we knew how much we were struggling, but our performance showed that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was obviously a shock to us all. But I was given the opportunity to come back and play after a few months, and it was such a different environment in the best way.
Good.
I think having the right people in the right places who look at athletes as people first, which is what the Canada Sevens program has now, is, you know, such night and day. And we've had a few people come back to the program and have said the same thing. Yeah. So of course I'm happy with what we did. I'm just upset with, if I could go back, I would do the same things, but I wish I knew what I knew now, and I wish I knew that there wouldn't be as much support and from the people who are supposed to protect us.
Was it hard coming forward knowing that there was a chance that it would impact your team's ability to perform? Because essentially, if I were in your shoes, I would have been thinking, okay, if we come out and talk about this, it's probably going to affect us mentally. It's probably going to affect like our ability to train and do X, Y, and Z. Like, was it hard knowing that like this was your second go at the Olympics, and that doing this meant that it probably wasn't going to go as well as you'd hoped?
Yeah, I think we all hoped that it would go in our favor, but we knew that there was a risk. Yeah. We absolutely knew that there was a risk, but the risk wasn't oh, we're not going to medal at the games. The risk was, oh, this is going to take a long time.
Right.
So I don't think we realized how much it would affect us mentally, because like the hardest part about coming forward was really everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to speak up about insufficiencies in our daily training environment, but there was a lot of backlash that we experienced. I'm going to say weekly.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't an easy time to go through. It was hard to focus on rugby when there were so many other things to focus on, just to feel that we were like, there were just so many other things to address prior, other than the sport.
Yeah.
Which was an unfortunate barrier that we experienced.
You feel like now, looking back, good changes have been made. Girls that are coming into the program now, you feel confident that they're coming into a program where they're valued and safe and respected? Yeah,
I think like in my experience as an athlete who was from a different program and now coming into a safer program, I felt that safety.
Good.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic about the future of rugby in Canada? What do you see for the future of the Sevens program?
Well, like when we decided we wanted to come forward, one of our main questions, or my main question, was, would I allow my sister to join this program given the environment that it's currently, given the current state of the environment? The answer was no. But now the answer is yes. So we're in the Canadian team's in a rebuilding phase, but every team goes through that. Yeah. And it's just that's how sport goes, and it's about uplifting people to play the sport they love and be the best version of themselves and in a safe space, because I don't see why you can't have healthy competition.
Totally. And I think too, adding to my fanship of you, it's like, it's been neat to see that core of you be great in sort of two capacities. So we had the Olympic, the medal winning, the greatness and the excitement, and then also the advocacy and the protection and the wanting better for new people coming into the program. And so I hope that you feel this way as well. But for me, I am just as in awe and impressed of your and your teammates' willingness to come forward and face those risks as I was when you won the medal. Like, to me, they're equally as important and valuable. So I hope you feel that way too.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think that you can't have one without the other.
I agree.
So, I'm grateful to have experienced both, because not all my teammates have. Yeah. So.
Totally.
Yeah. So to be able to come together and stand up for what's right is incredible. Yeah, incredible feeling.
So, okay. Last kind of rapid fire curiosity for myself questions.
Sure.
What would you say? Because I have my opinions, and I'm sure many people do. But what would you say is your greatest strength as an athlete, as a rugby player?
I would think I think it changed over time, because I'd been playing for so long. Right now, I would say it's my aggression. Yeah, and like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I just love playing, and I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, like speed, power, I think are the easy answers. But I would say now, as a more mature athlete, I've started to become more aggressive. And I'm in a position where I have to be more so, like just playing six, playing center, like you have to be like stand up, a decent defender to play that position. But yeah, I would say my aggression really came through in the later years of my playing years.
Is there anything that you did to foster that growth and aggression?
Yes, actually, it was always a big work on, and always my biggest feedback, you know, to just like have like, to just be a bit more like, yeah, just to be a bit more aggressive. And I was like, I never really understood why I had to be aggressive, but it was always like my biggest feedback.
Yeah.
And I never really was that type of athlete. Like I was always like, okay, like let's be fast to like evade. But sevens, you're so exposed on attack and defense, obviously, and like that's how rugby is.
Yeah.
So I would often like have this joke with myself that I have to start being aggressive early, and I'd practice like a week before we'd leave, just to like get in that mindset of like, okay, we're about to play. We're not playing like our teammates anymore. We're playing the top international countries that we'll be facing in a couple weeks. So, and most of my teammates know this. Like I have to start early so that I can get in that game mindset to, you know, no one's getting past me. And I'm running over people. Yeah. But that kind of has to start early for me, because I didn't really have that bone in my body in my earlier years.
Interesting. Okay, I'm curious what your, and I've literally always wondered this, what your skincare routine is.
Whoa. Wow.
Because you have such good skin.
Thank you.
Do you get that a lot?
No.
Really?
No, I don't. It has changed. Like I used to, like when I first started when I was 25, and I was like, hey, I'm going to Sephora, like we have to do this, like this is the right age, let's go get like all the top care skin lines, and like not top care, like affordable. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, like we could just use CeraVe, like we could just like hydrate the skin. But that's all I'm using right now. Okay,
other question. You and your husband are super cute. How did you meet?
Oh, thanks. Oh, good. I'm glad you brought him up, because I didn't get a chance to talk about him when we talked about family earlier. We met on Tinder.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did.
Oh my god, and he's from here?
Yes, he grew up here. His family, he grew up in, I think he was born in London, Ontario. Yeah. But when he was 7, like he's the oldest, when he was 7, his family moved here to Victoria. So yeah, his family's here, and So cute. Yeah, so I do have family here, which is so nice.
So what year did you guys meet?
We met in October 2015. So we matched in October 2015. He was doing wildfire firefighting at the time, and I think he was just home for Thanksgiving. So that's how like he was within my radius type of thing. So yeah, it was really cool how that happened, and we had gone for a walk on our first date, and then we had gone for dinner and like the second date, and yeah, it was just so wonderful. And like he plays rugby.
Does he?
Or played rugby. So that's kind of the, like, you know, obviously you guys like met playing rugby, and that wasn't the case. Like we never really crossed paths, because he was always away for the summers. And
right. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess so. Hey. Yep. That must have been really neat for him to like see you through going to the Olympics and winning a medal. Hey.
Yeah, I actually brought that up with him the other day, like how special it was to have him like so early on in our relationship. Like it hadn't even been a year that we had known each other, but having him part of that is so special.
He probably was like, jackpot. He probably was like, our children are going to be such good rugby players. I have to marry this woman.
He's definitely pumped.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my God.
No, it's so nice. Yeah, we've been together almost 8 years now and married for almost 1.
Oh wow, congrats.
Thank you.
When's your anniversary?
September 1st.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, so nice. Yeah, it's been so wonderful. And it's so nice having a partner that understands the sacrifices that I've had to make, and like choices, but you know, we weren't able to go on very many vacations because, you know, I had to train, and
totally.
Yeah, and like my routine was so regimented, and he totally understood, and like it wasn't even a blip.
And also he's cute.
He sure is.
He is cute. Yeah. You guys are a good looking couple. He is totally a babe. But like so are you, so you're evenly matched. So what does the next chapter look like for you? Like, are we thinking we're gonna keep playing for a while? Do you feel like what do you think? What's next?
Yeah, thank you. When you know the answer, please tell me, because I don't have the answer yet.
Okay.
I'm actually like 2 months off of my 3rd shoulder surgery right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, it's okay. Like I knew something was always wrong with the physiology of my shoulder, but basically it was such a cool surgery. They moved a bone from the shoulder joint area to the shoulder joint.
Really?
So that my humeral, so that the arm can like articulate in the joint much better, just to like create more surface area.
Whoa.
So basically, like, the bone had part of the bone in the joint had eroded enough that I had been getting like continual dislocations.
Oh my God, wow. Okay.
So like contact sports for you. That's
yeah, no kidding.
Age. Like, there's like also something to be said about things like that.
Totally.
Which is unfortunate. But this surgery is like, so far I feel like it was much more invasive surgery than my previous two. So I have much higher hopes for it. But yeah, I don't know, I've been able to play through it for I guess years now. Anyway, all that to say, so I had like a bit of a break from rugby just to recover. And I just got a full-time job as a business management consultant.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's like a cool new thing that I'm into. And I like, everything kind of aligned nicely, because I got the surgery and then I got a job offer, so it was like really cool. But I'm kind of like, you know, what is next? Like coming to terms with what's next, and knowing that could be potentially my time to move on in a great way. Like, I'm so fulfilled I've been so grateful like to have such a wonderful career, and, you know, make such an impact on young people in sport, and inspire people to follow their dreams. And so even though it might be the time to move on, I'm so at peace.
Do you see yourself ever working in like a coaching capacity?
I think I could coach part-time. I think it'd be challenging for me to coach full-time.
Yeah. I'm
much more of a one-on-one type of person. Like, I'm not a big like announcer or public speaker, so it's hard for me to, you know, gather a group together and be like, listen, this is so valuable.
Yeah.
I'm more of a one-on-one type of person. So I could see like a private coaching, like tutor type of situation for me. And I'd love that. Like, I have so much to give, and, you know, so much experience to distribute. But yeah, never really thought about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm excited. I'm so excited to see the next chapter for you. And it's interesting that you mentioned this shoulder surgery, because I'd seen that you had a shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that this was your 3rd one. Did it start because of an injury? Was that what it was, that you hurt it?
The first time?
Yeah.
The first time was interesting, because I had gone to make a tackle and I completely bounced off the person. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I remember grabbing my arm right away. But I kept playing, and, you know, we chalked it up to being like a bone bruise.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that this is just a bruise, but like, it didn't hurt enough for me to not play.
Right. Okay.
And I've always been someone who really took care of my body and my physical body, because I'm like, I know how demanding this is.
Yes.
And I think that devotion to care really elongated my career. But I think it was misdiagnosed for months.
Oh no.
Yeah. And eventually, like, I remember like falling, you know, when you just fall and you like catch yourself on your arm.
Yes.
I did that once. Like, I was during a game. I did that once, and my shoulder was like, went in and out, and I was like, oh no, like, this is way beyond like a bone
like, I don't think this is a bone bruise.
It's not a bone bruise. And then finally I got imaging, and it was like, yes, like, you definitely need something. You need some form of intervention. So yeah, I guess it was like, I got hurt, and then it was wear and tear.
Got it.
And then, like, now fast forward to my 3rd surgery, they said there was like bone erosion, and they ended up taking out bone fragments. And I was like, okay, like, who knows how long, if that started back then in 2015, or if and I guess it was obviously over time, but who knows if it started from that first one. I don't really know, and I'll never really know, but I'm happy that I got this one done, because yeah.
Well, and frankly, given how long your rugby career has been, relatively speaking, I mean, obviously that's a very like invasive, difficult thing to go through with your shoulder, but like, I mean, on the grand scale of things, that's not bad.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, I think all 3 like are about like 4 to 5 month recovery each, and considering that those are my biggest injuries,
right?
And they all kind of happened at really good times where I didn't have to miss too much of the season.
Yeah.
So it's an unfortunate stat that, you know, Bianca's been through 3 shoulder surgeries, but considering I've been playing for so long, I feel really good and healthy despite that.
Totally.
Yeah. And like, we don't really know like how long a rugby athlete's sevens career is at this point. Like right now there's about 3 of us who are currently playing and who have started when I started. So it's cool to, you know, to push those boundaries and push those limits.
Totally.
Yeah. To kind of build that new statistic of like, oh no, these athletes can play, you know, hopefully, you know, peaking at this age, or generally the average career is X years or whatever. So it's cool to be part of the growth of the sport in that way as well.
Okay, so my last question, my most favorite question is, Bianca Farella, what is your superpower?
I love that question.
Yeah, good.
I'd say that I'm a really loyal person to my friends. And I would say that's my biggest superpower. I know I'm quite empathetic. So I can really, like, if someone comes to me with an issue, I'm right there with them. And it's my issue as well.
Right, yeah.
So, superpower or not, I don't know. But yeah, I would say that's one of my best qualities.
Were you like that as a teammate too? Very empathetic?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed being that person that athletes can come to me for, whether they have a conflict or whatnot. Like I enjoyed being that person for them. Like, just to have support. And like, not everyone has infinite supports in their life, especially when young athletes are moving to an island on the west coast of one of the biggest countries in the world. I enjoyed being that person for people and helping them through anything that they need.
Well, thank you for what you've done for rugby, for women's rugby, for the future of women's rugby and women and girls coming into the program. And thank you for being willing to sit down with me, because this was so amazing. This like totally filled my bucket. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's so nice of you. Thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful ride, and I've had such a wonderful career, and I'm so happy to have sat down here and shared it with you.